everybody. Welcome to a live stream. I had planned to do a breakdown of the new the final Fantastic Four trailer. Oh, wait a second. Sorry. There we go. Okay. I had planned to do a breakdown of the final Fantastic Four trailer, but it was a combination of there not being that much new stuff in that trailer. And also, hey everybody. Oh, wow, X-Men superfan. That's extremely generous of you. My goodness. And then also these two huge stories, which just broke. And so I have to cover them. I really want to apologize for not being as available as I usually am. I'll kind of give you a little bit of an update. Basically, like multiple things in my apartment decided to break at once, including the air conditioning. And so it took all day yesterday. I took a break to go watch Jurassic World Rebirth, and I was then cleaning until like midnight. Hey, Bubbles. And even though I took all day yesterday to try and fix these things, they are still not fixed. So it's really, it's fine. It's not like the end of the world or anything like that. But I wanted to, I think you deserve an explanation as to why I'm not as available as usual. And it's just, and that's what's kind of creating the problem for me. Thank you, 80s model. That's kind of what's creating the issue this week and why I'm having a hard time. I don't know what's going on, it's really difficult. Okay, that's right, 80s model, life be lifing. Sam, I'm not going to review Megan 2.0. This week I'm just had to make peace with it. This week just ain't weeking, It's just not going to happen. Anything that comes out this week, and I feel bad about Squid Game too, because I got word that it's got quite the ending. Hey, Christopher Holmes. In fact, if I were you, I would watch Squid Game 2 as soon as it goes live, or at least stay off social media. It's 6 episodes. And I would just stay off social media immediately until you've finished the show, because it will go up immediately. Someone's just going to fast forward to the end and take a photo. Hey, Aaron, and stick it up on the internet, and it's going to be ruined. So I've hinted at what it is before, and it's coming true. 80s model, I don't know if I'm going to have time to watch the episodes. That's the issue. I have so much stuff with the holiday coming up that I have to prepare for. I don't have time. I don't know if I have the time to watch the 6 episodes of Squid Game, to be honest with you. That's what happened with Ironheart. It wasn't just even so much the time to cover the show, but to watch the show. It just would have been I have not watched Ironheart, because I just, I had to get ready for them to do all that work on my apartment yesterday. So on Tuesday evening, that's what I was doing. I didn't have time to sit down and watch 3 episodes. So that's just kind of the situation that's been happening for me. Okay, all right, so let's get to these 3 stories. Thank you very much for your understanding. And again, Emma Frost, X-Men Emma Frost superfan, that was, everybody, even 1 membership is appreciated, but that was exceedingly generous of you. Thank you so much. And not only to me, but to 50 of your fellow BTT members. Alrighty, hold on. Let's see here. All right, so story number 1. Hold on. I gotta boop it in. Boop. They're doing a Boop musical apparently on Broadway, and I was like, pour moi. Hey, Unholy Ghosted. I was like, very nice, very nice. Okay, so I don't have any chapter times for this because I just want to kind of go through those. I picked the poster frames that I thought were like the most interesting and that had the most new elements to them. So here's the poster. Woo, this is the new poster. It really emphasizes their powers, even though we have yet to see a trailer that really focuses on their powers, which I find very interesting. I don't know if it's a budgetary concern or what. We'll see. It reminds me a lot, obviously, of The Incredibles. Now, everybody gets pretty annoyed, or sometimes I didn't like the trailer very much. I mean, I didn't dislike the trailer, but I really just kind of felt there was nothing there, to be honest with you. I have a couple of things to talk about. But like, I think it's very much like The Incredibles. And while The Incredibles is actually based on the Fantastic Four, as I've told you many times before, it's always who's first to market in a successful way, especially. And while John Carter, was the inspiration for Star Wars and Superman, by the time John Carter got to the big screen, it just seemed derivative, even though, of course, it was the original. But I think the real issue is that I don't think that this looks as good as this, because this is animation. And I think it's hard to do something at this level in live action, unless you have, and I'm not sure how, I'm not sure how much they spent on Fantastic Four, the live action Marvel movie, but based on the trailers, I can tell you, not enough. Okay, so let's go through some of these trailer stills. So we did get a little brief look at Reed Richards using his powers. He barely talks in this trailer. Pedro Pascal is definitely having a moment. He's on the cover of Vanity Fair, I believe, looking amazing, You're right, Mika. It might be because they hired a TV director. But it's weird that Pedro Pascal just barely says anything, I find that very... One second. I just am surprised that they're hiding him, not just his powers, but it seems almost his character. And this is all they show, just like a little stretch. He's just stretching his leg. But I think they're going to have I agree, John the chef. They're not letting Pedro be Pedro. I think Pedro Pascal has a wonderful rascally quality to him that's very, that he's really also been developing with his Saturday Night Live and he's becoming, I think, a lot more comfortable in the public eye. And I think people are gravitating towards that. I mean, even materialists at least kind of played off of that a little bit. But, Elastigirl is the model. Elastigirl sequences are Mrs. Incredible in both movies, but particularly Incredibles 2, where she took front and center. I mean, how is this movie going to compete with those sequences? From the motorbike to stopping the train, to, this helicopter sequence, and also when she was going after, going through the city to find the bad guy. I'm not going to ruin Incredibles 2 if you haven't seen it. But Incredibles 2, the action that they dreamed up for Elastigirl was just, it's Jeremiah says they should just copy it. I would just, it's the same studio. I mean, I would have talked to Brad Bird and been like, any ideas he didn't use, right? And he's like, no, I'm saving them for Peter Stone and Incredibles 3. And you're like, darn it. So I just feel that's difficult. All right, then, what else people were surprised about was this look at Sue Storm's powers. She doesn't have telekinesis. She has invisible force fields. So I'm not quite sure why her invisible force fields are able to make beams float. It's tough. This is like, we're getting into, comic book nerd territory here, right? Like, push up my glasses. Because, her force fields are supposed to be objects, like they're just invisible. So she wouldn't make an invisible cloud. She would make like an invisible platform or pulley that would raise it. It would be, it would make sense. She creates things that are invisible, but they make sense. This just kind of turns her into telekinetic, which I guess maybe is easier for some people to understand. But we'll see. We'll see. I feel she's really encroaching on Wanda's territory a little bit, but whatever. I mean, Wanda's powers aren't well defined either. But this is interesting. I think it's a surprising direction to take the powers. And they're like rainbowy instead of blue. I think they're focusing, Tuck says her powers are bending light. I don't know. I guess technically they are. But I always felt her powers were invisible force fields, that she could create of any size and make them do anything. If she bends light, then she just becomes photon. I think we need to be really careful about the powers. Although Mr. Andrew says as long as they look cool, and for some people I think that, that will be enough. Maybe most people. So I like this. I thought this was a great gag. This is a take, obviously, on the famous historic Coppertone ad where it's usually a little girl or a little boy. Here it's Johnny as an adult, And I thought that was really cute. I think it fits with the time period quite well. It's very Johnny. I think it's, and Coppertone paid for that too, by the way. So I thought that was cute. I liked that quite a bit. I thought it was one of the better gags in the trailer. All right, then Ben. I'm really starting to come around on Ben. You know, I've never liked the Thing in the comics or the movies. I've never been a big fan of this character. But there's something about Ebon Moss Bachrach from Cousin from The Bear. I tried to watch the Bear season 4 last night, you know, after I was cleaning. I was like, these episodes are only half an hour. I'll treat myself to an episode of The Bear because I miss you, Richie, Cousin Richie. And then I was like, so boring. You know, I was like, it's just as avant-garde as it was last season, darn it. It's Bacharach, like Burt Bacharach? Thank you. Are you sure? But anyway, I'm really liking the performance. I think he's really standing out. I like him a lot. Then this concerned me, okay? Because you know what it reminds me of? Pepperidge Farm remembers Ang Lee's Hulk movie from the early 2000s. This was, you know, Ang Lee also decided to use comic book panels. Even down, you know, to the way the screen is divided and with black lines. Although I think sometimes Ang Lee also used white lines. I'm not sure. But I got to tell you, I remember seeing this movie in theaters, the Ang Lee Hulk one, and people laughed at it. You know, it did not go over well with general audiences. So, I mean, and I could understand intellectually where Ang Lee was coming from, but it just did not work. So I'm a little bit, look at Noor. God forbid movies have any style. Well, you know, you're like going to be sitting alone in the theater wearing a beret and a turtleneck while you wonder where everybody is. You know, like I was thinking when I was about doing such a stylized Fantastic Four, I was like, you know, if Peyton Reed came up with the idea, you probably shouldn't do it, even if it sounds like a good idea. You know, you'd be like, I like that too, but since Peyton Reed suggested it, I think we shouldn't do it. You know, like that's just my concern. I mean, maybe it'll do well, but I think like you know, it's like combined, like if someone pitched you Ang Lee's The Hulk with Mad Men, you'd be like, you know, I gotta tell you, you might be like, I kind of like it. But I can tell you I would be concerned about its ability to make money. So let's see. I'm glad some of you liked it. I really did not like it. I thought this did not work for me at all. All right, then I liked the Silver Surfer's line. You know, Julia Garner, when she said, I herald your end, I herald his beginning, I herald Galactus. And I was like, it's pretty good. And I thought she did a nice job delivering the line. I thought that was excellent. I was really impressed. Although I don't know why Sue Storm answers them. I mean, I really love Sue Storm and an Invisible Woman, and I'm glad that she's getting more of a, you know, an active role here and more agency. But, you know, Reed is supposed to be the leader of the team. It just is bizarre to me that they won't let him really speak in the trailers. All right. Then people were wondering, what's this? Look at this. Oh, okay, let me just show it to you. You can kind of see it here. I know what this is. In fact, if you know the leaks, you also know what it is. Because they tested this for general audiences, because they must be nervous about it, and it leaked. I'm not going to tell you what this is, but I'm very curious to see people's reaction to what this is. Because this is a major change in comic book, you know, continuity. Okay. Then I wonder what's happening here. This might be the Fantastic Four. However, you know, the there's not four. I don't think I see four standees. So it makes me feel like maybe that's like something to do with Galactus. It is very Man of Steel-y. I would agree with that, Keneal. And then here's Franklin. Oh, that baby's a superstar already. It's a little bit like when we first saw Wiccan in Speed, you know, as kids and babies. And we were like, oh, that's Wiccan in Speed. But I think the interesting thing about Franklin is that he's not particularly well defined as an older character in the comics. They can't even decide what color his hair is. Sometimes he's blonde like his mom and his uncle, the Storms. Sometimes he has black hair, more like Reed. So I don't think even Marvel Comics has really done a particularly good job. They've done a better job with Valeria, his sister, than they have with Franklin. So I think that holds the excitement back just a little, because I don't think the character is as well established. That's funny. It is kind of like Jack, Jessica. That's funny. Then there is a time jump. At the very least, you'll see. There is a time jump. There's quite the time jump. You'll be surprised. It's very WandaVision. I mean, they really hired Matt Shakman for a reason. And I think Sue Storm is being very Wanda-coded, And it's even WandaVision-y in terms of being a period piece, which I think is very interesting. All right, so yes, everybody's talking about the Thing having a beard, and it's not made of hair, but of rocks. And this has been established in the comics. He started out having a fake beard, that he just like a fake beard that he wore. And then over the years, it became a beard of rocks. But I don't understand. Why would it only grow out of his chin? Hair grows out of other areas as well, So I don't understand why it would only be there. I don't know. I mean, Vitor doesn't like it. I kind of liked it. I kind of like it. I don't know. He looks pretty. I don't know how he's going to shave Just Blaze Disney. That's a great question. But I just think he looks, I don't know. It's very, guys in particular like the man. And so to me, this is very Old Spice. Like, how can the Thing get even more manly? Give him a beard. Turn him into a bear. I mean, I think it's really an interesting choice. But it looks good. I mean, I got to tell you, it looks good on him. I think he looks nice with the beard. I'm like, he looks good. I like it. So that's my thoughts on the final. Let me put up the poster again. That's my thoughts on the final trailer. I don't think it moved the needle. That would be my interpretation of how it was yesterday. I think that, people who were interested in Fantastic Four were like, yay, more stuff to discuss. But I think people who weren't particularly interested in Fantastic Four, I think it trended momentarily because they added Twitter emojis to the Fantastic Four hashtag. So that always gets things to trend for a little bit. But we'll see. Let me do a poll. I know you guys love a poll. How excited are you for Fantastic Four? Super excited. I'm looking forward to it. Then, meh. And then, looks bad. All right, by the way, of course, anyone who's watching can vote in a poll. You don't have to be a member to vote in a poll. Anyone who's watching can vote. You just have to click on it. Yeah, Jada Jonah Jameson. I thought Johnny Storm, to me, I think Johnny Storm and Ben Grimm are doing the best job. Although Joseph Quinn looks so much like Robert Downey Jr., especially with the short hair. He not only looks like him, but moves like him and speaks like him, that I do find it a little distracting. Like when he's talking to Ben Grimm all the time, I'm like, oh my God, it's blonde Robert Downey Jr. Honestly, to me, I think it's going to perform just like the other movies did this year. It might be the most successful of the three, but I think it's going to be right in that space. I think that might sadly be the size of the Marvel audience right now, which would be terrifying. That would be so bad. Ryan, I'm not sure why you don't see a poll. People are voting. It's right at the top of the chat. TechBase says 600. That's pretty good guess. Travis says, way more excited for Fantastic Four than Superman. You have tickets for FF, but you're waiting for Superman. Oh, hey, thank you, Aralysis. X-Men Superfan says, did you like Silver Surfer? Yes, I did. I liked what she did there a lot. I'm not sure how I feel about the character overall, but in that trailer, I liked what she did. Anthony says, what villains would you have done? How would you change it with your business hat? I got to tell you, I don't think Fantastic Four is going to work. I think that, I got to tell you, I just don't think that there are, I think you already have The Incredibles. If I had to do it, I would but I'd feel bad because Incredibles is mine as well, but I would just do a blatant Incredibles ripoff. Like I wouldn't even be like, it's kind of like The Incredibles. I'd be like, live action Incredibles, only they're called the Fantastic Four. Yeah, or Alice, I would have skipped right to X-Men. I think there's like some Marvel fans who are like, Marvel's first family. But, people don't even really get that excited about Fantastic Four comics. I think Reed Richards is the only character here that kind of moves the needle a little bit, with like big crossover events, which is why they put him in Multiverse of Madness, and everyone got so excited when John Krasinski showed up, and they were like, oh, there he is. J. Jonah Jameson, that's really fascinating to say they're a royalty brand. It did, Fantastic Four did kick off Marvel Comics, and I think you're right, Superman did kick off DC. So they're always given a little bit more, maybe, attention than they should, put a little bit higher on the pedestal than they deserve to be. I would say that while they might have started these companies, they're not the brands that built the companies, which is fascinating. And it's interesting, they're coming out not only the same year, but back to back with the same style. That's very interesting to me. Superman's definitely more popular, Atom Sphere. Definitely more popular. I think Superman will be more successful than this film. For sure. Josh, as I said on Movie Math on Sunday, all Fantastic Four has to do right now is be better than the last two Marvel movies. It has to go above Captain America 4. That's if it has a 4 in front of it, it's going to be pretty bad. I think that I'd say it has to have a 5 in front of it. And that's like so sad that that's now like with a Marvel movie, you're like, come on, half a billion dollars, come on. Where it used to be, would it get to $1 billion? Okay, so the results of the poll are 36% of you are looking forward to it, 29% of you are like, meh, 25% of you are super excited. So only a quarter of you are super excited, whilst only 7% of you, though, think it looks bad. I don't think it looks bad. The question is, does it look like something you need to see in theaters? Anthony says, do you worry about the current discourse surrounding female characters when it comes to X-Men? No, I haven't really seen any conversation about that. X-Men, when it comes to the X-Men, the female characters are really important, although I think a lot of people are really itching for a good Cyclops. I gotta tell you, that actress from Sinners, I bet you she's Storm. It's just too perfect. I've seen some fan art, with her changing her look for Storm. She's Storm. She looks incredible. Jamie Lawson, thank you, Ben 10. I'd be really shocked if she wasn't Storm. Elvis Chris, we do need a hot Cyclops. Patrick Schwarzenegger is really trying to make Patrick Schwarzenegger work. Patrick Schwarzenegger's like, please, somebody hire me. If he can't get something off of White Lotus, I don't know, it would be bizarre. He's been rumored to be in the running for Cyclops. If he can't land that Cyclops gig, I think he's got a real problem. Steven says, Snow White also stated Disney princess, but she's hardly the best. Oh, that's true. Oh, that's right, Steven. Snow White does apply to that as well. The one that started it all, but not the one. Well, she did for a while, but she's not at all popular today. Wow, that's so weird. What a weird year. Snow White, Superman, and Fantastic Four all in the same year. And they all have that same quality. That's fascinating. I just don't want teenage X-Men. I'd be very upset if it was teenage X-Men. Don't you dare, Kevin Feige. James Marsden did deserve better, but I'm hoping that in the upcoming Doomsday movie that he gets to shine a little bit more. C. Black says that F4's projection is between 600 to 800 million. I'd be amazed. It's funny you guys bring up Arnold Schwarzenegger's previous roles. I'll say one other thing and then I got to get to the next story. But fascinatingly, I saw an article talking about how Arnold Schwarzenegger revealed that the biggest payday for him was the movie Twins with Danny DeVito because he got back end. Because nobody thought he could make a comedy, so he had to agree to work for no money up front and just take a part of the back end. And he said he made over $40 million off of Twins. And that's a very old movie. So yes, I was rewatching Twins, which is available with commercials on Prime Video. And I gotta tell you, I'm seeing with Arnold Schwarzenegger that young and that blonde, I can see the Patrick Schwarzenegger. Usually I'm like, how are you Arnold's kid? But then when I was watching Twins, I was like, well, yeah, I see it. So very interesting. That's right, Adam's Fair. We're not even talking about Fantastic Four. All right. I think that Patrick Schwarzenegger would have been a better Johnny Storm. I feel bad. I like Joseph Quinn, but he's just not Johnny Storm. Okay, let's go to the next story of the day. Where'd my arrow go? All right, story number 2. Boop. All righty, Denis Villeneuve. Last night, it was announced he's directing Bond. Woohoo! So who hired him? Amy Pascal and David Heyman, and then real-life Bond villain Jeff Bezos. He's so Lex Luthor. He's so Bond villain. It's hilarious. It's just so funny. He's even just throwing a wedding this week, which is like such a Bond villain wedding. Like James Bond would crash this wedding in Venice and defeat Jeff Bezos, which is so funny. But in fact, Jeff Bezos owns Bond for $1 billion. For $1 billion. So it's really weird. So yes, they had a number of directors pitching, and they went with Denis Villeneuve, who of course just recently was talking to Christopher Nolan, because Christopher Nolan was helping him promote Dune. I bet he regrets that, because Christopher Nolan just cost his brother a job. All right, so Christopher Nolan. Now, Denis Villeneuve apparently has been dreaming of directing a Bond movie for decades himself. But so has Christopher Nolan. Christopher Nolan has made it no secret that he would like to direct a Bond movie. But instead, as you can see, I wrote down here, they just get a controllable Christopher Nolan. They just get a director that will do his style, but that does not insist on full creative control, which has been something that Nolan has said he would require. So you've got Sam Mendes, of course, very much copied Christopher Nolan. Cary Fukunaga. What happened to Cary Fukunaga? Where'd he go? His Bond movie didn't tank. So I think that's weird. I don't know what happened to Cary Fukunaga. And then, of course, now Denis Villeneuve, who does very much also copy Nolan, to be fair. Now, even Jonathan Nolan, he got canceled? Oh, my goodness. Well, I don't know what he did, but it seems unfortunate. All right, so Jonathan Nolan did also pitch for this, but I guess, coming off of West, and he's even British, I think. I don't think he speaks with a British accent, does he? Even though he's related to Christopher Nolan, who is his brother, and Christopher Nolan's British. All right, so anyway, Jonathan Nolan from Westworld and Fallout, which is quite successful, he pitched as well, but didn't get it. So Denis Villeneuve, he's not British, he's Canadian. So he's kind of European, I guess. His name is Villeneuve. But he's also, apparently, as I said, a mega fan of James Bond. He has wanted to do this. He's apparently also, everybody wants to direct Bond. They're like, oh, please pick me. And he got picked. So let's think about Denis Villeneuve, okay? I gotta tell you, I do agree with some of you that his action sequences have been stellar. Just back from Sicario, the action sequences, when they do that raid in Mexico, that's an incredible sequence. He also, of course, I think has put some pretty good action in Dune. Not great action, but I think he's able to create a good atmosphere. I've really liked what he's done with Dune. I thought Dune was excellent. I thought particularly Dune 2. Dune 2 was amazing, in my opinion. I was just like blown away. Hugh Jackman staring up at the sky emoji. Meme. I was just like, oh, it was amazing. You've never seen a Bond movie, Jeremiah. What? Casino Royale with Daniel Craig is my favorite Bond movie of all time to this day. Although I thought Cary Fukunaga did some nice stuff. He did some nice Bond's directing on the last movie. I did not read the book, Stockley. I don't read books. It takes up too much of my time, and I can't. I have a problem about not, I need to finish things. So like if I watch a streaming series and if it's bingeable, I can't stop until I finish it basically. If I read a book, I can't stop till I finish the book. And it makes me very antisocial. So I only read short form content, to be honest with you. All right, so then, but I do have a major concern about Denis Villeneuve's commercial appeal. Let's look at your box office, Denis. It's not great. So, of course, the last Dune, which was amazing, did $714 million worldwide. I'm sure that's the number that they looked at when they called him. I mean, it's a very strong number, very strong. I'm sure he showed that picture of him being buddies with Nolan. He was like, look, me and Christopher Nolan are pals. I'm literally Christopher Nolan adjacent. But I think before that, he was having real problems. Blade Runner really did not do well at all. Arrival, some people love Arrival. I did not care for it. Not a big movie. Sicario, I mean, that was a small film. That also did not do particularly well. Enemy, I didn't even see that. Nobody did, as you can see. I loved Prisoners. Prisoners was 3 hours. That's that Hugh Jackman, Jake Gyllenhaal, Paul Dano movie from over 10 years ago. Wow, these people have been working for a long time. People walked out of Prisoners. I mean, when I went to see it again, I took somebody, I was like, you got to see this movie. It's amazing. And when we went to see Prisoners, people were walking out. And I was shocked. I was like, are you enjoying this amazing movie? And they're like, nope. And they left. I mean, it was pretty shocking. So, I mean, like, I think he'll definitely deliver a very good Bond movie for sure. My question is, how much money will it make? That's where I really start to get nervous. And then, of course, the big other shoe to drop, they have their director, but who will be their Bond? So these are the Bonds we've had so far. Mr. Sean Connery, isn't that George Lazenby, the infamous Bond? Then Roger Moore, who was very popular, a little more of a goofier Bond. Timothy Dalton, horrible Bond, did not work out. Then Pierce Brosnan, everybody wanted him to be Bond, and I think he was only okay. And then, of course, Daniel Craig, who has a real love-hate relationship with Bond because it took up just so much of his career. And then, of course, there's this new video game Bond. This is the actor who plays young Dexter. I think, I gotta tell you, I hate this look for Bond. I think he looks just awful. I think, Daniel Craig was like more of an accessible Bond, but Daniel Craig still has the swagger. This guy, he looks like a regular, he doesn't look special. That's my problem with him. Bond is a very specific look. As you can see from this lineup of Bonds, it should fit with this group. We'll see what they decide to do. There's the question of what age will Bond be? Like, how young will Bond be? Do people want a young Bond to try and make younger viewers interested in this brand? Do they want, do they want to change the ethnicity of Bond? That's another question that they've had. There's also the LGBTQ situation. Do they want to pick someone who maybe at least teases that element? Like Josh O'Connor, I think would. I think, that's a choice. And then, of course, do they want to do a gender change? Besney, that's pretty aggressive against Villeneuve. Jonathan Bailey would be an interesting choice. Let's see, that would be, it's you have to walk, I'm not sure how it's going to work. Let's see. Jonathan Bailey is pretty flirty in Jurassic World Rebirth, which I saw last night. He is wearing those slutty little glasses. But I think that we'll see how it works out. No, it was kind of weird. He was flirting, at least sometimes I was like, are you flirting with Scarlett Johansson? But they didn't totally go in that direction. I'm not quite sure what choices they were trying to make. So anyway, my review, I can't review Jurassic World until Monday when the review embargo lifts. Aaron Pierre, I told you before, I think Aaron Pierre, to diversify the Bond franchise, I would increase the CIA role of Felix, who was a black character, and, Jeffrey Wright played him in the, sorry about that siren. That's a weird siren. With the Daniel Craig movies. So I think that, maybe that's what I would do with Aaron Pierre. But, I think like Bond is supposed to have a very specific look, and I do not necessarily know if it would be well received if you changed that look, to be honest with you. I think there are other ways you can update the franchise around Bond, with the villain, with the Bond girls or women at this point, all kinds of stuff like that. Okay. So does anybody have any questions or comments about this story? Glenn Powell? No, I'm scared of Glenn Powell at this point. I feel he might be the new Ryan Gosling, as I told you. I mean, I don't need a remake of Blade Runner 2049, a Denis Villeneuve movie starring Ryan Gosling, which tanked. You think it's going to be a Bond prequel? In the 1950s or 60s, I can't think of a better way to kill this movie than making it a period piece. Steven says a Bond song sung by Cynthia Erivo. Oh, that's a good idea. 10 plus idea, Steven. Keneal said Saoirse Ronan said she would like to be a Bond villain. Now there's an idea, a female Bond villain, but like the main villain, not like one of the henchwomen. I like that idea a lot. She's kind of still very young to be a villain, though. She got an early start. She's a gifted villain. Henry Cavill? I don't know. I like Henry Cavill on screen, but I don't know. He's gonna do Highlander. Let's just see what happens with Highlander. With Russell Crowe, I can't tell if that's a good idea or a bad idea. I'm like, did this just get awesome, or did it just fully go into Craven territory? I mean, Chad Stahelski's directing. Let's see here. Although Chad Stahelski came in and fixed Birds of Prey and Ballerina, and both still didn't do well. X-Men, yeah, Bond needs to have that aristocratic flair. Even if he is like someone who worked their way up, like Daniel Craig played, he still needs to have that that kind of aristocratic air about him. Pi says Nolan is likely not upset with this because Bond enters the public domain in 2035. Let's see. I'm sure they're going to work on ways to take care of that. Riley says Henry Cavill and Charlize Theron would print money. I don't know. It seems a little bit. Everyone would just say it's Superman and that lady from the Fast and Furious movies. And Ricardo brings up a good point. When is this movie going to frickin' come out? Denis Villeneuve has not even started to film Dune Messiah yet for 2026, December. So that's really like when's he going to do this? Like, I'm surprised they would even hire someone that is that busy. Reese says 2027. That's so ridiculously far away. Cup of Tea, Kim says Nolan would have made a Nolan movie with Bond elements. Villeneuve will make a true Bond movie. Well, let's see. We'll see. I mean, we're going to find out because he got the gig. And then X-Men Superfan wants to know about a queer Q. Well, they already did that sort of with the last one. With that actor who's openly LGBTQ, Ben Whishaw, who I love. Such a big Ben Whishaw fan. He's also the voice of Paddington Bear. Adam Sphere says, do people even want more Bond? Well, I think that's one of the reasons they're taking a break. Maybe that's a good reason. Let's do a poll on if you're interested. You really like Halle Berry, Steven. She's lucky to have a fan like you. Are you interested in another James Bond movie? Heck yeah. With Villeneuve, yes. Depends on new Bond. And then no. All right. By the way, again, as I said, anyone who's watching can vote in a poll. You just have to click on it and you can vote. A lighthearted tone? I don't know about that. That's Kingsman. Pi says, I read the book, Bond books. There's some change between book Bond and the movie Bond. Bond is more low-tech in the books. Yeah, but nobody wants that. Excuse me. Nobody wants low-tech Bond. Riley says, Denis also left out the Bene Gesserit combat scenes, and it raised the question as to why. Yeah, I mean, I don't know why. That's a weird question. Thank you, everybody. Sean says they should get Greg Fraser as cinematographer. I'm sure they'll get an amazing cinematographer. Denis Villeneuve's movies always look incredible. That's funny, Justin. That's your only criteria, as long as Bond is super hot. And I think a lot of people agree with you on that. I think Theo James, it's just been a little bit too long. Vitor, I kind of like Harris Dickinson as well. I think Harris Dickinson's not a bad idea. Juan, they haven't even cast Bond yet. They're going to take a while before they decide on the song. All right, I'm going to close the poll because we're getting ahead of ourselves. I got to get to the last story and then have time for a Q&A. All right, so 32% of you are waiting on the new Bond casting. That's crucial for you. 26% of you just don't care about it. That's pretty big. That's a lot. 20% of you have been won over by Villeneuve, and then 20% of you are already just excited overall. So that's pretty good. They've got 40% of you already now, and they could get up to 70% if they do a really good Bond. So they're going to take their time to try and make sure they get somebody who's just right. All right. Vitor says, my dad is going to watch any Bond he gets. You think? I think, would he watch like a female Bond? I think it has to still feel like Bond. Joe Alwyn? Isn't that Taylor Swift's ex? No, no way. Everyone will just talk about Taylor Swift. Oh, that's great, Vitor. Good for your dad. Okay. All right, let's get to the third story of the day. All right. Story number 3. Boom, baby. All right, they just announced it this morning because what's today? It's 626 Day, Stitch 626 Day. It's June 26th. Isn't that funny? That, of course, is the official Stitch Day. So they made a really cute announcement on social media. There's Stitch driving onto the Disney lot to find out that he's going to go into development for his sequel. So I thought that was very cute. I thought that was adorable. Oliver, I'm sorry about your super chat there. Let me go back. Oh, it's really far back here. Denis almost single-handedly tanked Alcon Studios with his Blade Runner sequel. That's right. Hey, Carlos, welcome back. That's right. That's right. Okay. So Lilo and Stitch, that's great. They announced this. And I think, as I said when the movie came out, you want to have an easy money for a sequel? You put Captain Gantu in it. And sure enough, here at Disney World, down in Orlando, at Tomorrowland, they're doing a special celebration for Stitch Day, 626 Day, and they came up with a Captain Gantu. There's never been a Captain Gantu. I'm a big Disney fan. I go to the Disney parks a lot. I've never seen a Captain Gantu in like a meet and greet. That's incredible. So, boy, they must realize how much people like Captain Gantu. Just Blaze Disney says there has been, but it's very rare. So I guess they dug this out of storage, cleaned it off and stuck it on somebody and said, get out there. But clearly, they realize how much people are interested in Gantu. But I get a little nervous about a Stitch sequel for a couple of reasons. So some people love it, but I only like the first Stitch movie. Afterwards, things got a little crazy with Stitch characters. So you can see that's Stitch and all of his friends after the movie and TV series was done. And they said because he's experiment 626, there's probably a ton of other experiments out there for him to be friends with. That's right, all his cousins. I'm not a fan of this. It's just not, I have a problem with it. I'd rather just see him go on some sort of adventure, but we'll see what they decide to do. But this is how crazy it could get. Then my big question is, who's going to direct this thing? So we have a couple of choices, and I love one of my ideas. So here's Dean Fleischer Camp, who I think ran this movie into the ground. Sure, it's going to make close to $1 billion, maybe $1 billion. But he got into a lot of fights with people and oh, that's funny, Evil Chris. Stitch 2, Lilo gets adopted. Yeah, that seems to be the direction it's headed in. A lot of people were very upset with the changes to the ending. That's funny, Oasis, Christopher Nolan. These are good jokes. But yeah, so, I'd be curious to see if they invite this guy back. I was not happy with the work that he did. And I think I want someone who's going to do a little bit of a better job, especially because there's so much money on the line. Now, some people have said, what about Chris Sanders and Dean DeBlois? Dean DeBlois just directed How to Train Your Dragon live action, and he's directed all the How to Train Your Dragon movies, and he was the co-director on Lilo and Stitch. So he'd be an interesting choice, but, How to Train Your Dragon's not exactly blowing the roof off of the box office either. And I don't know if these guys would want to come back. But I think they're an interesting option. And, while they've done very well in the animation space, Chris Sanders has tried to do some live action movies, and it hasn't totally worked out. But this is who I would get. The Tiny Chef people. Tiny Chef. Are you aware of Tiny Chef? Tiny Chef is blowing up online. Okay, everybody's loving Tiny Chef. So Tiny Chef, the reason everybody's paying attention to this little guy is the Tiny Chef was a Nickelodeon. Well, he started out on social media, then he got a Nickelodeon show, and it just got canceled by Nickelodeon after 2 seasons. And this team brilliantly decided to recreate that phone call when Nickelodeon canceled it with the character. And you can go and see this. It has I think last I checked, it has 87 million views or something on social media. Let me go try and see this. Okay. Someone posted on Twitter. Let's see here. 97 million views. There he is right before he gets fired. Okay? And then also they had another video from a couple of days earlier when he was on a hiatus and didn't know he was about to be fired. This hilarious video of him talking to his agent. And they show a couple of his audition tapes. The one for The Last of Us is absolutely hilarious. He even does the clicking for a clicker. It's really hilarious. So I just love those that kind of industry humor. So I think these people, I don't know, maybe I'd get another situation like Dean Fleischer Camp, who of course came from Marcel the Shell with Shoes On. Is this going to be the same thing? But I never saw Marcel the Shell with Shoes On. Maybe it was very poignant. But I have to tell you that I think that this team, the Tiny Chef team, is legitimately funny. So I don't know how funny Marcel the Shell with Shoes On was. I want more humor in Stitch 2. So I would actually, and I wanted to bring this up also because this is how it happens in Hollywood. So this is why you never know and why you should always keep putting yourself out there. So nobody was paying attention to Tiny Chef. Okay, no one cared about Tiny Chef. It got canceled. It didn't get canceled for no reason. It got canceled because it wasn't working for Nickelodeon. But then they had this brilliant idea of, putting out, that's funny that you say Marcel the Shell was very A24, because so was Thunderbolts, and that didn't make any money either. So, and A24 movies don't make a ton of money, so it's a more limited appeal. Then this blew up on social media, and I think suddenly they're going to start getting meetings. Nickelodeon might even bring the show back, to be honest. I watched some of the other shorts from them. I didn't love all of them. They were a little existential. But I think, I feel like I'm the executive having the meeting with the Tiny Chef team. I'm like, I don't love all your stuff. Some of it's a little too niche, I think, for what I'm looking for. But I think when you guys are in the zone, you're really in the zone. And I think that I would love to, and you don't get the gig right away. So what the process is that you call them in for just like a meet and greet. And so you say, I just want to get to know you as a talent. You saw this on The Studio with Seth Rogen. So you would just call these 3 people in and you'd sit them down and you go, I really like what you guys do. I'm wondering if there's a way that we can work together. That's the lingo that they use in Hollywood. I'd love to find a way for us to do something together. And they go, I'd love to hear what your original ideas are. But also, I think you might be a fit with Lilo and Stitch. We're doing a sequel. So I'd be curious for you guys to pitch me. So that's how it works. Just like they pitched for Bond. All those directors had to come in and do a pitch. So you say, I want to hear your Lilo and Stitch pitch for a sequel. I'll see you in 2 weeks or a week, you know? You guys come back in and pitch us what you think you might want to do. Pitch us a couple ideas, but I'd like Lilo and Stitch to be one of them. And that's how it works. That's how the industry works. So good for these people for putting themselves out there. You're going to see them for sure. Unless they have a horrible agent, they should get something. Bring in Ruben. He's one of those little Stitch's friends, right? So yeah, I like this idea. That's what I would do. So did anybody have any questions or comments about this? Chico says, how long is this going to take? It's going to take a minute because they're only in development. So you're probably not going to see this for 2 or 3 years. They could probably film it pretty quickly. Pi says that he interacted with Dean on Twitter and that Dean seems like a nice person. Apparently the bad choice for Stitch was executive choices, not his choices. I don't care. That's the problem. He has to go prove himself somewhere else. He also tried to get Pleakley in drag. Couldn't do it. So I'm like, I need a director who can make it happen. 624 Ruben. J. Jonah James says, we don't believe him. He's like, oh yes, the executives made me do it. That's pretty funny. SMR Goose says, is this, if you haven't seen Lilo and Stitch, you better because there's a sequel ploy. No, because it's already made $900 million. They're definitely making a sequel, for sure. X-Men Superfan says, we need Auntie Pleakley and Uncle Jumba. That's true. They do really need to try. I would like to see them fix the Jumba situation. That's right, the Winter Witch. He couldn't get Pleakley in drag. He got him pretty close. They put Billy Magnuson in some pretty interesting outfits, but I think they could have pushed it further. Steven says, Angel, the pink female Stitch would be great to see. See, I don't like these other Stitches. There's only one Stitch in my opinion. Pi says, Nickelodeon pulled the plug for a reason. I think for sure, but they didn't advertise it either. I never heard of Tiny Chef until now. Now I'm kind of intrigued with the little guy. Juan Gabriel says, what about the director from Flow to direct the sequel? No. Too artistic. I need somebody who's funny. I need Stitch as a comedic character. To me, Stitch is the funniest when he's making jokes, and I like when Stitch acts like a person. I didn't like that they pushed him so far into dog territory in this live action version. I was like, he's not a dog. It was driving me crazy. That's right, Zerf, and Tiny Chef does love RuPaul. He loves Lady Gaga. I'm telling you. There's something here. Maybe it's not a fit with Lilo and Stitch, but if I were Disney, I would hire the Tiny Chef team. Something else that happens, which is a little dangerous, is that you might want to reserve the Tiny Chef team. So there's a chance that Disney would put the Tiny Chef team on retainer and give them a deal. But then they might not like anything that the Tiny Chef team pitches, but the window of opportunity would close. And so Tiny Chef would only get a small amount of money from Disney or any production company or studio to lock them down, but yet nothing would materialize potentially. And then they would not get anything. And so that's another pitfall of the business. I hope they have their pitches ready. You should always have some pitches ready. And you should always try to update them, because someone will always say to you, you got any original ideas? We got some fresh new ideas, and you better have a freaking answer. Elf was hilarious, but I don't think Jon Favreau would do this. I think he's too busy. All right, let's do the Q&A, because I got to get going. All right. Joseph says Pleakley doesn't do drag. He's a cross-dresser. I always got the feeling that Pleakley was trans. That Pleakley might be technically male as an alien, but I think he felt most comfortable as a female alien. A female human. That was the vibe I always got from what they were saying about Pleakley. I think that's just who he felt he was. And I thought that was really well done. I think it was really sophisticated. That's the vibe I always got. All right. Obed says, what do you think of the Social Network 2 announcement? I don't know if there's an audience for it. Let's see if Jesse Eisenberg comes back. And, Mountainhead was about the tech industry. And, I think it might be a little bit too difficult for people to hear. That's funny, Evil Chris. You just thought Pleakley was deep undercover. And he was undercover even in his downtime. X-Men, I did think that Jumba and Pleakley seemed coded as a couple as well. Let's see here. Ariel Knight says, we're already to the Q&A. Let me just light it up. Hold on. So Ariel Knight says, if Sinners wins an Oscar, will it be a bigger success than Barbie? No, because Barbie made $1 billion. But I think it'll be a great step forward, not only for the horror genre, but for commercial mainstream films being recognized for their work. JFG Entertainment. I think Diego Luna is doing a great job on Jimmy Kimmel. I not only appreciated the speech that he made about what immigrants contribute to America. I thought that was really beautiful. But I thought his Stormtrooper on the street sequence or comedy segment was hilarious. I saw that this morning, and I thought that was really funny. Paul, I haven't heard anything about Ratatouille 2, but I wouldn't be surprised. Monster says, by the way, I tried to reach out to X DMs. Is it okay? I can't. You can try to reach me on DMs. I'm surprised that I haven't seen it. Try it again. I'm pretty good at checking my DMs. Besnia, I am excited for Superman. Jarrell said, I did see the Superman and Lex clip. I thought that the gag with Lex Luthor mumbling about the dog was funny. Let's see here. Pi says, regarding Bond, I know I made the Bond book sound boring. But they're a good fit, darn it, with Nolan's aesthetic. So, I don't know. Nobody wants to see a slow, realistic Bond. I mean, that's not fun. Chico, I'm going back here. I hosted a watch party with my friends tonight for... Oh, that's great. Chico. Congrats. That's so exciting. You're on Lily Singh's new game show. That's going to be great. I think you're going to do great on that, Chico. I think you're a perfect fit for that. I'm sorry I missed that. X-Men Superfan, my favorite Bette Davis films. I love Bette Davis films. That's not Baby Jane. That's a great one. She's made a lot of really good movies. Off the top of my head, let me just look it up real quick. She's pretty good in Little Foxes. I like that movie that she made. Dark Victory. Let's see here. All About Eve, obviously. That's right, Ricardo. All About Eve. That's an incredible one. One of the earliest appearances ever of Marilyn Monroe. I think that's it. She's done a lot. Not all of them are great. Adamsphere, I can't review Jurassic World until Monday. My favorite rom-com, Oliver. That's very sweet of you, Jesus, to say. I'm not sure about a favorite rom-com. My favorite romantic movie is Dr. Zhivago. I like that one a lot. Bruce says, in addition to Bernthal and Sink, Spider-Man 4 currently shows Daredevil, Kingpin, Vulture. Well, no, that can't be true because Vincent D'Onofrio says he can't be in a movie for Marvel. It's not, his contract doesn't allow it. Keneal says, Oscar Isaac joined Instagram. He joined Instagram to promote Frankenstein, which is a good idea. And I agree that Frankenstein trailer was amazing and it should be going to theaters. RPW Gay Foodie says, do you still think Superman will win the July box office? I do. And then Riley says, what about Jason Momoa's son getting cast in Dune? I think that's a mistake. I mean, I'm glad he wants to help his son, and I certainly can't tell a father or a parent not to help their child. But in his very own movie, I don't know. I think you got to be really careful about nepotism. I think people, it's all about the child proving themselves as a talent. I think but I don't know. And also he's so young, Jason Momoa's son. I don't know if I think let him be a kid. Although they need a kid. And like, it's a great opportunity. So I guess, let's see how good he is. Monster, try to DM me. I'll keep an eye out for it. Jordan says, yesterday was my 30th birthday. Ah, congrats! Seeing Megan 2 with my whole family tonight. Ready to see her slay. Also, over 2 year, you're at the 2-year badge. Happy birthday, Jordan. I'm so glad that you have such a fun time planned with your whole family. I hope you have a great time. Damani Lovell says, my birthday is Saturday, and I would love a birthday shout out. Happy birthday, Damani! I loved K-Pop Demons Hunters. I watched it twice in the same weekend. That's an incredible movie. My favorite Catwoman by far and away is Michelle Pfeiffer. Oh, thank you, Vitor. Pi says, Grace, did you see the new trailer for Begonia with Emma Stone? Yeah, I'm so over Yorgos Lanthimos, but I like Emma Stone. She's a wonderful person. She was so kind to me when I was in Zombieland 2. And I thought the trailer maybe looked a little interesting, but I don't know. Yorgos Lanthimos just is not my kind of filmmaker. Like, we just are not a match, you know? Brady Guy says, when do you think we'll get an Avatar 3 teaser? Maybe Comic-Con. Zetus, I haven't heard about Monica being in Doomsday, but, we'll see. All right, let me do a couple of last things. Gerardo says, hey, Grace, I hope you're doing great. Every time I hear something about a potential... I don't know what to say to that, but thank you for thinking of me. Vitor says, love from Brazil, Grace. Love to you as well. Bratz with Kim Kardashian. That sounds exactly like Kristen Wiig in the upcoming Gabby's Dollhouse movie. And then Asami says, hey, Grace, currently watching you as you weightlift. I'm inspired by ScarJo's biceps in Jurassic World. Thanks, Asami. And way to pump some iron. I'm sure you're going to look amazing. Good for you. That's going to be wonderful. Calliope, I just dropped a special members video for Alfred Hitchcock movies, but in honor of Pride Month, I also focused on what Hitchcock did for the LGBTQ community in terms of both working with LGBTQ talent and telling LGBTQ stories. All right, everybody, I gotta go. Have a wonderful rest of your day. I will see you on Sunday for Movie Math while I try and get all this stuff fixed. All right, and happy birthday, Liam. I hope you have a great birthday as well. All right, everybody, bye-bye. Bye-bye-bye.